And so, Trevor, we're going to go over some of these things that I've written here on our agenda. And it's kind of just taking a transaction from start to finish as a seller. And if we have some time, we might even do that as a buyer. But for people who are looking to sell their homes, let's go over these steps, because this is going to go over the contract. This is just going to go over each step, even prior to the contract, after the contract. So these are things that you're going to want to get familiar with. So when a seller's getting ready to sell a home, you can see here that one of the first things that I have was something that we've already talked about. Pulling accurate comps to find accurate values. Trevor, how do you go about doing that?
You know, with real estate, most homes are appraised by the comparison method, which means an appraiser is going to compare to other properties that are similar in style, in location, in size, and all things like that. So as real estate agents, we have access to all of that data through the multiple listing service. So when we search a property by tax ID number or by a previous listing that gives us all the details, the square footage, things like that, we're looking for what is comparable. I always use pictures, because not just size, location, and where it's at, is I want to see what the condition of the property is, and there's a lot of flexibility. A property can fluctuate anywhere from $20 to $60,000 or $70,000 purely based on what's inside, if it's been remodeled, if it's in really good condition or not. So we do our best to try and figure out not just what do we think the property will appraise for, but also how much demand is there in the marketplace. Because you can have an A-plus property, but if there's 10 of them available and they're all in the same price range, you want to be the 10th down the list. You want to be the cheapest if they're all very similar, right?
Right.
Okay. But if you're listing a house and there are 2 or 3 homes that are similar in that area and in that price range, you're probably looking very good to get your price. So we pay attention to not only what do we think it will appraise for, also how much competition is there right now. And that's very subjective. A lot of times we're like, oh, let's see what happens here, and then make adjustments as we go. I never like to adjust my price within the first 2 weeks of a listing, because if we've done our job correctly ahead of time and we've prepared correctly, we should be in the right place. So if we're not in the right place, if there's something we missed, we definitely want to make adjustments quickly. And I say make bigger adjustments, because it helps you get to a sale sooner rather than going in small grades, price reductions, improvements, whatever you're doing. If you're doing little bits at a time, you're so testing the market. I would rather do it quickly, get activity, get competition, and sell fast.
Wonderful.
Pricing your home correctly is very important.
I totally agree. You know, earlier in my career, one of the things that I did is I took some appraisers out to lunch to understand how they appraise a home. Because at the end of the day, excuse me, if a buyer is going to be utilizing a loan, it doesn't matter how much they're willing to pay for the home if it doesn't appraise for that value. And so I really wanted to understand how appraisers gather that value, how they come up with their decision, because at the end of the day, you know, that appraiser might base things differently from another appraiser. One of the things that they shared with me is there's no hypothetically golden plate that says this is how you do it, right? And so it's subject to their opinion. And so I took a bunch of appraisers out to lunch to kind of gauge and get an idea of how they all come up with their value. And so when I'm meeting with a seller and they're saying how much is my house is worth, oftentimes I'm sharing with them that I'm taking this from an appraiser's point of view. As much as I love your home and would love to list it at a higher price, my price is irrelevant if it doesn't appraise. So absolutely. Okay, thank you, Trevor.